a dozen trade calls, couple of free agent visits. And yes, these numbers are skewed, but the Pittsburgh Steelers did it all, and they walked away with their new wide receiver addition. Not Brandon Ayuk. It's not Terry McLaurin. It's not Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. It's not Jacoby Myers. It's not Jalen Waddle. Even Calvin Ridley's name was tossed out there. It wasn't Tyler Lockett, and it wasn't the guy that they brought in not once, but twice for a free agent visit in Gabe Davis. Nope. The Pittsburgh Steelers' new wide receiver addition, the guy that is supposed to come in here and be the savior for an offense that needs another weapon, that is not struggling, but could use some help, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. That is who the Pittsburgh Steelers have signed to their 53-man roster to help what they view as a wide receiver core that is incomplete. And I think a lot of us feel the same way. The Pittsburgh Steelers need wide receiver help. They're not going to ignore the situation, thankfully. And they went out, and the whole time, the entire time that Aaron Rodgers was here throughout the summer and heading into the season, when it was very serious that the Pittsburgh Steelers definitely needed somebody else to add to their wide receiver room, everyone was thinking it's got to be a pal, a former teammate of Aaron Rodgers. Well, it was, but it wasn't the guy that anybody expected. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to another episode of Steelers to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Before we get going, hit that like button on this video. Can't thank you enough for that. I come to you every morning, Monday through Friday, with the latest news. And today, the Pittsburgh Steelers have their new wide receiver. What a journey it's been, my friends. And really, it wasn't the ups, the downs, the crazy trade calls, or the rumors that were flying all over the place. It was the friends we made along the way when we all sat around and said, man, it would be awesome if the Pittsburgh Steelers landed this guy or that guy. Or could you imagine? I can't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are calling the Washington Commanders for Terry McLaurin. You got to go get him. The good old days. But here we are. The Pittsburgh Steelers are heading into week 9. They're 4-3. They're coming off back-to-back losses that make this team look terrible. No excuses. And it's not the offensive side of the ball that is struggling. It is the defensive side of the ball that looks atrocious. And everybody acknowledges that Mike Tomlin has to be a little bit on the hot seat, and that when you have guys in a secondary that are playing as bad as this team's secondary and defense overall is playing, you don't even care who's catching the football as long as somebody's catching the football. And the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of ran with that and said, Aaron Rodgers is making things happen. Even in losses, they're scoring 25, 30 points. That's a good offensive performance. But they needed help. They wanted help. And they went out and they searched high and they searched low. From my understanding, they called the New Orleans Saints. They called the Las Vegas Raiders. They had interest in the Miami Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans, all for names like Jacoby Myers, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, Chris Olave, and so on and so forth. But here we are, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, a guy whose greatest season does come with Aaron Rodgers with a little over 700 receiving yards, who last year had 600 yards with Derek Carr as his quarterback in New Orleans, who comes with a ton of speed, which matches exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers were looking for, because all the reports out there said the Steelers want somebody to spread the field, to be able to be a deep threat, to be able to kind of be the perfect company for DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin and a handful of tight ends. And that's what they got. They got a guy who could do all that, who has experience with Aaron Rodgers playing together in Green Bay, who was a part of the San Francisco 49ers this season because he thought that he was going to be part of a wide receiver core that was phenomenal and an offense that was beat up but looking good and a contender. The Steelers were not believed to be a contender, but things happen. For those of you who are unaware, Marquez Valdes-Scantling did not make the Seattle Seahawks 53-man roster this summer. Instead, chose to sign with the San Francisco 49ers while the Pittsburgh Steelers were pursuing him to say, I will go to a pretty beat up wide receiver core in San Francisco. He suffered a calf injury 5 weeks in, was placed on IR, was released with an injury designation, and here he is in Pittsburgh, ready to go. Does he solve anything? That is the big question. Truthfully, yes. Marquez Valdes-Scantling adds to this wide receiver room. He gives you a big body, an experienced wide receiver who could catch 400, 500, 600 yards in a season, couple of touchdowns, who has experience with Aaron Rodgers, even if that experience is a couple of years old at this point, and could come in here and be a veteran that's better than the veterans that they've had in years past, in the Allen Robinsons and the Van Jeffersons, and is a pretty okay wide receiver 3, 4, depending on who you are and what you're looking for. But does he really solve? Does he really make the Steelers more of a contender? Is this the move that the Steelers should be settled with? Well, I'll tell you this. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in the midst of a 2-game losing streak. They look terrible. They cannot beat anybody. Everybody is starting to panic. There is sounds and chants and sometimes cheers of get rid of Mike Tomlin, move on from everybody, start the rebuild. I mean, I dove into it with Jacob yesterday, full force. It's time to give it up if you can't turn it around. If this season ends the way that everybody expects it to end, yes, you move on from everybody, maybe except for TJ Watt and all of the young guys. If you were on a rookie contract or not on a massive contract, it's time to go. The Steelers need a spark. They need a big, giant, holy crap, I cannot believe that they just did this spark. That's what they need. You want to be a Super Bowl contender again? You want to have the NFL believing in you? Fix what you need to fix. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers have a wide receiver problem, and that is the one position that they have been looking for, which should not be the only position that they are looking for, but let's say it is. You're telling me that free agent Marquez Valdes-Scantling is the ideal situation to come in here and make you a Super Bowl contender once again? No, he's not. Is he a quality wide receiver? Yes, I will admit that. Better than the group that you have behind Calvin Austin and DK Metcalf. And, you know, Roman looked good, but he's still a work in progress. But he's not the answer. If the Steelers are looking to go get a spark, you're telling me that Valdes-Scantling's better than Jacoby Myers, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, Rashid Shaheed? No, he's not. And he doesn't have the spark or the upside or the potential for the offense as a whole that all of those names provide. Great move by the Pittsburgh Steelers, as long as it's not their only move. Because right now, they should be going out there looking for a safety and not giving up till they find one. They should easily, and I mean easily, be calling about defensive tackles and potentially a corner if they feel necessary, which might be necessary at this point. They should still be calling for wide receivers. It should not be over, because the Pittsburgh Steelers believe that they are a Super Bowl team every single year. That's why they make the moves that they make. That's why they will never fire Mike Tomlin. No matter how pissed off the fans are, no matter how many times you hit a point where it kind of feels like everything has ran its course and it is time to move on, the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to bunker down and say, nope, we're sticking to our guns. We are trying to win a championship. Great. You made championship move after championship move the entire year. DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith. You made the decisions. And then you're just going to come up short with this one? Doesn't make any sense. It kind of feels like a cop-out, an easy answer. And yes, it's a better easy answer than going to get Tyler Lockett. Don't get me wrong. Makes sense in that aspect. Don't hate the decision at all, actually. What I hate is that if Omar Khan hangs up the phone and says, we're good, there it is, did it, you're welcome, guys. No. Go make the phone calls. Go get another wide receiver. And yes, Valdes-Scantling and Aaron Rodgers probably have a connection that make this thing easier. And you got to feel good about that. I'm not saying that he's not involved in the offense and he can't contribute and be a good, decent contributor to this offense. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks ago were believed to be Super Bowl champions in the making. This team was loaded and they look great. Today, everybody expects them to be borderline playoff team with little chance to win a playoff game, if one at all, if they make it at all, and already thinking about the big giant rebuild they have to go through in the offseason. Okay, if that's the case, keep it going. Because if you take your foot off the gas now, chances are you're going to end up just where everybody expects you to. And I don't think anybody in Pittsburgh is willing to accept that, even if you are convinced, like many of us, that's how that's going to end. What a tongue twister there. This season, anyways. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of Steelers to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Before you head out of here, hit that like button. Can't thank you guys enough. And with that said, I will be back later for the flagship show. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.